out your popcorn and your Raisinets, because Cult Following is here. I'm Victor Marino, one of your three hosts alongside Kirby Nelson and Adam Rakowski.
Meow.
As we lead you down the primrose path to cinematic insanity. We love movies, we love film culture, and we're going to talk about it for the next hour here on the Cult Following Podcast. Follow us on iTunes at Cult Following. Subscribe and give us a review. If you like what you hear, want to hear some old episodes, find us on SoundCloud and on cultfollowing.co. And if you live in the Phoenix area, check us out every month at Cult Classics AZ. Our next event is Jaws on the Water this Thursday at the Moxie.
Jaws on the water.
Tickets available at cultclassicsaz.com. Some are coming, some are going, so you might be able to get in. And we have Wayne's World at Jump Cut next Friday at the Grid. Tickets also Cult Classics AZ. And our next big event, Terminator 2, next month, August 13th at Pollock Tempe Cinemas.
Electric Boogaloo.
Judgment Day is here. Time to party. All right, so this is our big 40th episode, you guys. We've been doing this now for
40 years?
40 years, exactly. An episode a year. We've made it work somehow through death and tribulation. No, but seriously, since, what was it, December 2000? November, yeah. 2014. Quite a while.
But it wasn't posted, I think, until the end of December. January, I think.
Yeah. Quite an accomplishment, I think. And we've kept this thing going, and I'm very proud of us for being able to talk about our love of movies and toys and TV shows for that long. Who else has that commitment?
And a huge thanks to the Phoenix New Times for honoring us.
That's right. Kirby, as Kirby just mentioned, we were just recognized in the Phoenix New Times as one of the 10 best podcasts in Phoenix, Arizona. That's kind of a big deal. I'm kind of, humbled and amazed, but it's good that people like our witty repartee and our not recaps of the Golden Girls. Somebody else does that.
What?
Yeah, there's like a Golden Girls podcast on there, and a movie podcast I hadn't heard of. I'll have to check out sometime.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones on there I had never heard of, so I actually really like the article.
Yeah, so it's cool. I dig it. Yeah, and in this episode, this is one of our Spoilercast. I did the CGI there. Or the audio. ADR, the ADR. Yes, this episode we will be talking about the new reboot of Ghostbusters that just hit theaters this past weekend. Came at number 2 at the box office, right behind Secret Life of Pets, which I actually really want to see. I feel like that Secret Life of Pets, I've been watching trailers for that for like 2 years now. And that poodle head banging a System of a Down. I need to see that in context.
I actually just went and saw it last week, and I enjoyed it. It's funny because I know Adam didn't like it very much, but I actually was a huge fan of Zootopia.
Yeah.
And I thought that was better than Secret Life of Pets, but I enjoyed Secret Life of Pets. And the one thing I will say about it was, you watch the trailer, you kind of get an idea of what is going to happen in the film, but it definitely does go down a little bit different path in a few different spots than not exactly what I was expecting, at least not as linear. And so, especially for a kid's film, although most of the better crop of animated films that are coming out don't exactly have a cut and dry.
I love Craig Kinnear. In Mystery Men, he was great.
Greg Kinnear.
Greg Lanier.
Oh, okay. I get what you're doing. I see what you're putting in.
It's going to be here all night, folks. 11 p.m. shows. Different from the 9
I'm a fan of Greg Kinnear, the actor.
People are just Googling to remember Mystery Men right now.
Yeah.
So go ahead and take your time, folks.
You know what's really funny, just to stay on the Mystery Men riff for a second, and to tie it into the cartoon things, I'd never really seen many of these CGI cartoons the last few years. And I recently saw The Incredibles for the first time.
Finally.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before. It's actually really good.
I really like
It
it.
is really good.
Yeah, I don't know why they would make a sequel to it. It seems like that's Pixar's thing now, to do unnecessary sequels.
They said this is going to be the last one for quite a long time.
Well, that's good.
Well, that's the only reason I had no. It's like, I understand Toy Story was an arc in terms of his human development,
Yeah.
from child to teenager to young adult, but I just feel like I never was a huge fan of Toy Story. I'm still not. I don't think it's.
I liked. Was it the second one where it had the the collector,
Yes, and the third one is the
Yes.
one with the abandonment with Lotso Bear and all
Yeah, that one I haven't seen, although I'd seen the Lotso Bear toy like in Las Vegas and other places, and I wanted to get it just because I think it looks cute. Yeah,
And he smells like strawberries.
he does. All of them say it smells like strawberries.
I wanted to get him. They had him at the Disney store.
Yeah, that's where I saw him.
And
Disney.
they had like the 1-to-1 ratio sized one, and I was like, oh, it looks really like huggable, like exactly
Yeah.
how they describe it in the film. And I picked it up and I was like, oh, I wonder if it smells, and it's just like, oh, ugh, like too much.
We're gonna have some ratings on that, including the snuggability factor of these toys eventually.
I don't know.
We do need to start doing some toy reviews because
I can do one right now. I can. I've gotten a bunch of them lately, but we can do some another.
Well,
time.
no. But what I mean is that it is interesting though. It's funny that you brought up the Pop Funko one. I recently became aware, not to cakewalk too much off topic, but I do think it's really interesting. I mean, I've always known they've gone up in price, but like, holy shit, how much some of the Pop Funkos. Like, this is going to be a Beanie Baby.
Oh, it already
Amiibo
happened.
thing.
It
It's just getting,
already
like, out of
happened.
control. Like, where people are really thinking, like, one movie I really, really enjoyed, again, curving back to the animated film thing, is I love The Book of Life.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
That and Paranorman and Box Trolls and some of the other ones that are a little bit more of, I guess you could say, the dark side, or harken back to me to like a Henson era style of animation and imagination. I really enjoyed, and I have a couple of them. I was like, I'll finish the set. Yeah, $80 each, $100, and I'm like, what's the point?
No, the whole thing with Pop Funko's gotten kind of ridiculous, and it's sad because I guess for those who don't know, San Diego Comic-Con starts this Wednesday.
What?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
And Funko.
Hope you got a hotel.
Yeah, Funko has been releasing news of their exclusives in waves. So they've got, I'm pretty sure, along the lines of almost, if not over 100 exclusive figures for San Diego Con. And it's kind of obnoxious because a lot of them are ones that I feel people would buy if they weren't exclusives. Like, they have one that's the box set of all the Scott Pilgrim, the band, Scott and the Talon and Kim, as a set with instruments, and you can only get it at San Diego Con. They have some Batman versus Superman ones, including one that is so fucking clever that I can't believe it didn't make it into a regular lineup. It's the Superman Funko, but he's all painted in granite, and on his chest it says "False God."
Oh, that is really good.
It's really clever. I'm like, oh my god, I would totally buy the fuck out of that just because it's funny on so many levels. Just, it's from the movie, but yet the meta humor is there about Funkos in general. Funko Pops. But to me, it's obnoxious because I've been in San Diego Con, and to get any exclusive there is the biggest pain in the ass in the world. Because you have to go upstairs to what they call the sales pavilion and get in a giant ass fucking line, which you'll be in for hours, just to get a lottery ticket, which tells you at what time you can go down there to buy one if they're still available.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bullshit, guys. And I'm not going to get into how they've made it so you can't even buy them online anymore. So my whole thing is San Diego Comic-Con it reached that point of no return commercialization a few years ago. And the fact that like Star Wars and some of these franchises aren't even going to be there this year just says, there's a marketing aspect to cons, clearly. But when it gets so big that basically everyone's, fuck it, it's not worth it.
Well, that's because they all have their own cons now, too. That's the other big part. It's like Star Wars Celebration. It's like, why be anywhere else?
Oh, I know at some point Disney's just going to make D23 a yearly thing, and it's going to be the big Marvel Star Wars con, and then that'll be the end of San Diego.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Unless they make all those some of the other things, unless, like, the Harry Potter book and all that
Yeah.
kind of comes back. Like, but you have to make enough new properties and update existing ones. But
Because I think at this point, Disney owns enough shit that they could do their own con, just based on Disney itself.
well, I'm just waiting for a new theme park.
Well,
That's dedicated solely, because I really do think there's going to become a point where it's going to be classic Disney. People want Disneyland to be the Disneyland they've always known.
Yeah.
And then they're just going to open up another Disneyland that'll be literally everything modern.
Disney Planet.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Adam already had a marketing over there. But I did want to quick jump in because
.com.
.com.
I did have a good idea, speaking of toy reviews, to throw out another review. As we're going to jump into Ghostbusters for the main course of our one, Victor had the idea of having us have an Ecto Cooler rating contest on air, which we can't talk about in the review. But I decided, especially as how much we talked about Batman versus Superman, we're going to have a new review contest, and I
Okay.
want you to review it. So you guys can do it together. You can just do it by yourself.
Oh my God.
We're going to review the Batman versus Superman cereals.
See, this is actually a good thing because I don't like cereal, so I can totally be unbiased in this.
I actually, and I can't do this. Or wait, this one I can because I think this one is vegan, but most of the time they're not. So, yeah. Or you can just
We
keep
can do-
them
well,
for
we'll
the
do-
lovely embossed collectible covers.
We'll leave the cereal here and we'll just get some bowls and do it the next.
There you go.
Yeah, because I don't want to take it home.
Smoke some bowls.
Yeah.
Chocolate strawberry cereal.
Let's make
Is that
sure
seriously the Batman flavor?
Yeah, chocolate.
Yeah, we need to
strawberry.
read what these flavors are.
Caramel Crunch is the Superman flavor, and I did just check the expiration to make sure we're good. November 19th, so we got some time on
Okay.
those.
Yeah, 2035.
And what is
Cereal
the
has forever.
Batman flavor, Adam?
I said chocolate strawberry.
Batman is chocolate strawberry, which I would take to represent the strawberry represents the blood on his hands from his decades of crime fighting. Chocolate being how it's only a black and white worldview, and Batman's on the dark. And caramel crunch being
A classic American.
That's what Superman eats after he bangs Lois Lane in the bathtub.
Delicious. I saw him sitting there lonely on clearance, and I
Yeah.
was just like, "We gotta do this one."
I
next.
do. For those of you who can't see it, we do have the video podcast, so let's hold it up for the benefit of those with flash photography. Look how embossed. We'll put a link to this as well on the website. I'm holding up the Superman one to the camera, and the Superman symbol is all embossed and glowy.
Oh.
It's all glowy. It's foil, like the comic books of your youth. And Batman's is de-embossed. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's set in, and it's got texture, for your blind friends. Maybe there's a secret message there.
Cereal Braille.
Yes. And the back of the box says, "Who's your hero?" And then it's basically a checklist. Brains versus brawn, skill versus speed. Getting the truth versus truth and justice, and technology versus alien abilities. Batman knows how to get the truth out of any villain. Superman strives to always uphold the values of truth and justice. Clearly not the American way, though. And Batman, basically, the serial confirms he's a waterboarder.
Oh, and Victor here will take the test on the back of the Superman box for you.
There's a test.
He's gonna quiz us.
Oh, okay. We should do this. This will be funny. All right. While the world wrestles with the kind of hero it really needs, it's time to decide once and for all where your allegiances lie. Take the quiz to see which superhero you know best. What is Superman's birth name? Is it A. Kal-El, B. Jor-El, C. Tor-El, or D. Rael?
Rick.
So close.
Todd. Todd would be
Even
a good one.
closer.
I like how there's a Rael reference on here. Like, was that an in-joke about Raelians?
I don't know.
I think the correct answer for the home audience is A.
Kala.
True or false?
Oh, and then who named their son Kal-El? What celebrity named their son?
I know who it is.
I know who it is as well.
Oh, well, then answer it. 1, 2, 3.
Well, why don't you tell us who it is, Kirby?
I think I kind of want to hear your Nicolas Cage impression.
Nicolas Cage.
Or come here, Kal-El. I want to show you my bat suit. It lights up.
Yeah, that was Adam nailing it. True or false? When first introduced in comics, kryptonite was originally red. You know, there's no answer key on here. I'm gonna say it's false. What year did Batman first appear on film? Oh, okay, this is a good one for us. 1966, 89, 64, or 43.
I have no idea because I don't know about the Batman serial history. Not this serial, but Serial. And I imagine they're probably... But the first appearance of Batman Detective Comics was 38, so it would have been probably 43.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
It would have to be 43 for the serials, but I know the Adam West Batman movie was 66.
66, yeah, of course.
We don't have an answer key, so we're just kind of... It's expected that we would Google this, of course. What does the S on Superman's chest mean for Kryptonian? What does the S on Superman's chest mean in Kryptonian? Superman, leader, hope, child.
Todd.
Rick.
Yeah. In the battle between Superman and General Zod, which of Bruce Wayne's properties were destroyed? Wayne Manor, Wayne Financial, Wayne Aerospace, or Wayne Tech?
His pride.
Yeah. I actually think, was it Wayne Financial?
Wayne Child Labor Enterprises.
Yes. In which comic book was the first full-fledged team-up of Superman and Batman? Detective Comics 27, Superman 76, World's Finest Comics 2, Superman Batman number 1.
When they defeated Rosa Parks.
Yeah, get in the back of the bus. All right, which of these is not a power Superman possesses? Flight, heat vision, telepathy, or X-ray vision? This is actually a trick question.
You could actually argue
telepathy,
whether or not that he can fly.
Yeah, I would argue telepathy because that's not. But he made Lois forget that she knew his identity with that telepathic kiss in Superman 2. In the comics, he doesn't have telepathy, but I would argue that was telepathy.
Did you ever think a cereal could cause such strife? And vigorous debate.
But see, I could say that he doesn't have flight either because the original Superman didn't have.
Just hopped.
Yeah, he just was able to leap really far.
He kind of does that in the new movies too, because he like
Man of Steel.
Yeah, he like powers up like a Dragon Ball Z guy. Boom, you know, that's a good point. I'd argue this is a flawed question.
Yeah,
very flawed.
So yes, this is how the Superman cereal has created strife.
Hopefully the caramel crunch will be a much sweeter aftertaste to the bitterness of that exam.
The strawberry is the blood of Superman. Kryptonian blood flavored.
Mix them together. Have an adventure. Come on, kids.
That's the takeaway from this edition, everybody. All right. So, what have you been watching this week, Adam?
Beaver Trilogy Part 4. Anyone catch that on Netflix yet?
Wait, are you kidding? Is that a thing? Beaver Trilogy?
Yeah. Beaver Trilogy Part 4. Now, this is something I didn't even know existed, and as I was watching this documentary, I didn't know why I was not exposed to it when it was supposedly around in the 90s. A guy who worked for a news station, a television station in a very small town near, I don't know, it was like Beaver, Ohio or something like that. I mean, or like New Hampshire, somewhere just like in BFE. Ran into this individual who he was completely enamored by, and who was also said, "Hey, I'm going to be doing this talent show in Beaver." And so he goes, "Well, I want to do like a special interest piece on this person," and you know, brought the video. He went basically by himself just to do this special interest story that when he went, the guy came out in drag singing Olivia Newton-John songs, and he completely didn't expect that. And he did the documentary about the guy. That was very, just a very short little documentary, because actually the news station wasn't interested in exploiting this guy, because it's kind of sad at the same time too.
Okay.
It's kind of bittersweet. But the director, it's really strange. What happens sequentially after that is he made 2 more Beaver films. It has nothing to do with like getting your mind in the gutter. It just happens to be the name of the town. The next one was a fictionalized version of the documentary that had Sean Penn in the lead before he was Sean Penn.
Oh, so this is from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is like the
70s?
No, it's like 80s.
Okay.
It's like right before
At Close Range?
Fast Times. Because he kind of based the character in Fast Times after what he knew of this guy from Beaver or wherever.
Oh, okay.
And then the director of the documentary and then of this fictionalized one did another version, a fictionalized version of the first documentary of the second fictionalized one. So the third one in the trilogy had Crispin Glover in it.
Okay.
And then the director ended up becoming such good friends with them that they made that movie together.
What is it?
Where Crispin where he took on that persona with the weird pants and like the kind of the weird like bob haircut, and was like kicking David Letterman in the face. Here, I gotta find it.
Oh, I thought this was that What Is It? Or It Is Happening.
Oh, that one that was at Chandler Cinemas that time? I was gonna say, that's some Inception level shit right there.
So, yeah, this fourth one in the Beaver Trilogy Part 4 is the documentary about the first 3 in the trilogy that the director shelved for the longest time, wouldn't show to anybody for years and years and years and years, and only just recently in the last 5 years did he play it at different shows.
So this is basically like a fringe kind of...
Very fringe.
Fringe documentary.
Okay, Ruben and Ed.
Okay, I am not familiar with that movie.
Yeah. That was the movie that's the only like Hollywood movie that this director did, because he was ambitious to become a Hollywood director, and then when that really tanked in 1991, he kind of said, "Oh, fuck it." But really interesting if you're a film fan and you like the process and you like to see kind of grassroots sort of stuff, or people becoming obsessed with their muse kind of thing.
I could see that.
Yeah, I got that.
And then how it all kind of how you deal with your different foibles and how you reconnect with people and relationships and whatever. It goes pretty deep. More surprising than I thought it was going to be. You think with some of this stuff that it's going to, go in a certain direction, but this one actually surprised me in a few spots. I finally saw Hardcore Henry.
Oh.
Loved it!
Have still not seen that. I kind of feel I needed to see it on a big screen to really get it.
Yeah, well, maybe. But my most favoritist thing of the whole film was Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy was great. Well, it catches you off surprise.
It does.
Like, it really does. And that's what I tried to bring up in my review is that it just comes out of nowhere.
Without really spoiling anything, the first few parts of how Jimmy is introduced and keeps helping him and pulling him along in like situations. Oh, it's like, I'm back, I'm here to help you.
Now, Jimmy, for those who wouldn't know, is Charlo Copley, the guy from District 9, right? Yeah. Charlo Copley.
But then the payoff of like why and how, because you start laughing after the first few times. You're like, well, how the heck why is it
supposed to be a joke?
Right.
Like, why does it keep being the...
Yes, but there's actually an explanation, and you're fine with the explanation. And you just like go with it, and you're like, all right, more.
Yeah, and then
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
On that, I don't want to derail Adam, but on that same trip, I recently finally saw Chappie.
I still haven't seen that one yet.
God, it's so bad.
It's painful to get
I
through.
really wanted to like it, but God, it's like fucking terrible. I mean, Hugh Jackman is in it, and it's like this, and the kid from Slumdog Millionaire, and it has like this weird kind of, if you put like RoboCop and Short Circuit in a blender and added like weird humor and made it into a De-Antwoord music video at the same time. It sounds good, but not really. And like Hugh Jackman like works in a government contractor, like they make defense weapons, and he's like always carries around a gun, but he's got like a mullet like Jermaine Clement has in Eagle versus Shark. It's a really weird movie. I don't think it translated well to the US.
No.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of it. I'm not an expert by any measure, but I do, as I've always understood from cinema studies and from some other places, that really is like the essence of South African culture.
Yeah.
Is it really is just an amalgam of everything, and that their view is to recycle a lot of stuff. The Zeph thing, like to take like uncool things and make them your own, and it's like without being
it's
like
it's a weird movie in the sense that like I feel like there is a plot there, like it's almost trying to say some of the same things that like RoboCop and Short Circuit are trying to say, and I can see if you grew up in the 80s watching, it's like, oh, these are kind of similar things about robots and self-determination. But then they has the two, Ninja and Yolandi from De-Antwoord, are raising this robot that is a learning computer that the guy from Slumdog Millionaire made, and they're teaching him that violence is bad, but then they're like killing people and it's stupid, and like I can't really convey so much why it doesn't work, except for the fact that
it lacks Fisher Stevens.
No,
just
that's just
be
it.
honest,
the
man.
kid from Slumdog Millionaire is Fisher
he plays
Stevens.
that role.
Yeah.
He dresses just like
exactly
him.
the
He
stuff.
has like the corduroy jacket. and
It's like I
everything.
get the joke, but literally it's there.
Yeah. They're not hiding it.
Yeah. And it's bad. And like Hugh Jackman is Dick Jones. It's so weird. It's so weird.
It's very polarizing.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
But
sorry.
I can understand the culture of it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's more of a cultural study than it is a
coherent
kind of
movie.
broad, worldwide sort of
Well,
relationship.
District 9, I think, just worked as it's an allegory that everyone can understand.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Whereas I heard from the reviews I heard of Chappie, it just really
Yeah.
wasn't that. So
Right. Misfires.
Exactly.
Emotional misfires.
like he kind of said, like RoboCop or Short Circuit, and it ended up being more like hardware.
Kind of.
Not without being.
No,
like-
actually, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never read that or anything, but from what somebody said or from what people have told, I have heard the RoboCop and Short Circuit thing, but they're like, yeah, but it didn't turn out like that. And I was like, what, it turned out like hardware or something? Because Richard Stanley is also, is one of those filmmakers. His stuff just is
We'll have to do
brilliant,
an
but-
episode about cyborg cinema sometime,
That's
because there's
true.
just so much of it.
Yeah, especially the glut from like 86
Yeah.
to 96.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I love Real Steel.
Yeah.
I admit
Also
it
with
now.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Guilty pleasure.
That's one of
over
those
the top with robots.
I will say the one thing about Real Steel is that truly one of the most interesting success stories for a film. I mean, how much money it made. And I mean, I really, first time I saw the trailer, I'm like, this is going to tank instantly.
Yeah.
This is going to be out like 1 week, 2 weeks at the most. And maybe it'll find life, dollar theater.
It's one of those
DVD.
movies that made money, but everyone forgot about.
Oh, yeah, instantly. And it's real weird because you would expect a movie like that to come out during like the BattleBots era. Like when that was like the #1 show.
I'm sure that's
on
when it
cable.
was pitched.
Probably.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, is my brother was so into BattleTech and Robotech, was watching Robot Jocks all the time.
Oh, yeah.
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 Lastly, I watched this afternoon to get ramped up into Ghostbusters. On Netflix, they have a documentary called Ghost Heads. Which
Oh,
is
I
the
think I saw
Ghostbusters fandom
that on there.
Huh, I
people
wanna
are
check
called
that out.
Ghost Heads. It's a lean hour and maybe 15-20 minutes. You can tell that it was made with a lot of heart, and but some documentaries are done with finesse.
Mm-hmm.
Other documentaries are done with maybe some amateur hour based on other documentaries and what they've done. Oh my gosh, I'm just digging a hole. There's a lot of crying.
It's not that good, is what you're saying.
All they do is they
Crying
go from
about what?
about their fandom for Ghostbusters, how much they love it so much that
Is
they
this like
burst into
so? It's
tears.
kind of like that Trekkies one.
I don't remember so much crying in Trekkies.
It's real to me, damn it.
But I can get what you're saying.
There was more kind of like sappiness or maybe kind of sadness in Trekkies.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of felt bad for the people
But I
that
never
lived in
felt-
their basement, but
Yeah, but I mean, that was, I mean, the thing about the Trekkies is they tried to make it at least, both Trekkies and Trekkies 2 were both at least tried to tilt it towards that there were a gamut of different individuals who are part of the fan base. That not everybody had the same way of life and stuff, and some of the ones that did, I mean, I thought some were pretty cool. Like, it's incredible. Like, I grew up first generation. My father has a picture of him from 66 or 67 with a Trekkie shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And my father is the least like kind of guy you'd meet. You know, he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy to be into it. But so I grew up on it, but it's just one of those ones where I didn't feel as bad, but I kind of thought that's maybe where you're going with the crying thing. But no, I mean about crying about how into it, like how it affected their lives or something like that. But I wasn't sure.
there's some of that. But then there's a lot of things where it feels like they're maybe pushing their buttons. I don't know. It's
like it's antagonistic.
It's opportunistic and it's exploitive.
Well, I can believe
in some
that
ways.
because there's so many of these documentaries.
That's
now.
what I'm saying is that it's just not that good because you go from one person who says, "Well, my son is autistic," and then Dad starts to kind of choke up a little bit, and he goes, "Well," and then Ghostbusters, he found that and he started wearing the uniform and had much more confidence, and then he just starts bawling. They stop that, then they go to the next person and says, "Oh, well, I was a drunk for many years, like fall down, like I would wake up in the kitchen with my stove on after I passed out and realized I had to change my life. I went to AA and that wasn't the thing for me. And then I watched Ghostbusters and it changed my life." And then she starts crying and she like has to leave the room because she's too emotional. Then they stop. Then they go to the next person, and it's the same thing all over again. I used to watch Ghostbusters with my grandpa, and he was the one who introduced it to me in 1989 when Ghostbusters 2 came out. He said, "You got to see Ghostbusters 1 before you see 2." So we watched that together. So that was our thing. Then we bonded, and then he starts crying, and he goes, "Well, then my grandpa died like in 1992, and I wish I said goodbye to him before he died and hung out more with him and told him how much Ghostbusters meant to me." And then they stop. Then they go to the next person. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
I get what you're saying. I think when you see that in a documentary, to a certain degree, like, once is good for that. But I feel there's so many schmaltzy documentaries right now, like the Bat Kid one, where like it's this kid and he has a term. So we're going to fulfill his wish and turn the whole city into a Batman playground for him. And then it's 2 hours long. The whole thing following him around. Whereas a documentary like that should be about how, learning about him, this is so much work, not actually following him around for the whole thing. Then it's just like we're listening, like, we're just trying to make you cry, and if you cry, that means it's good.
Well, and if they had the balls, they would have talked about the controversy surrounding that.
Yeah, exactly. Truly. How DC originally wasn't going to let them do it.
Well, not just that, but I mean, how the funds were arranged for that.
Yeah.
And what happened, and what disparity in terms of race and class, which does happen with a lot of that kind of stuff. And I just feel like, I mean, not because I truly feel that it's an awesome story. And yeah, it's just your typical Yahoo News thing. I mean, it mattered to that kid, and that is in the end what matters. But I do think I guess kind of on the schmaltzy side of what you're saying about documentaries. I do think people, instead of letting things happen naturally in life, are obsessed with turning it into a movie, into cinematic. It's like people go on, as somebody, I mean, I've been very lucky to have traveled pretty much the entire world. I mean, I've been to 6 continents, 40 countries. I'm really blessed for the opportunity, but I never once got into any of the modes that a lot of people do, who are like, I'm going to turn this into like, you know, I'm going to desecrate something sacred so I can have my perfect photo. It's like, and that's what I feel like a lot of people do with these kind of things, is like the story, there's some root in it that's great, but if this kid they'd spent $1,000 of contributions from a bake sale and gotten people involved from the community, and they could have done it so easily too, and instead it's like, oh, here, we're gonna do this, you know, and it goes to the whole like GoFundMe and Kickstarter thing, where people will put money towards anything without really knowing about it. And I don't mean this is not to be, you know, just like the total Debbie Downer kind of thing. I
know what you're getting at. That it could have been done at a smaller scale, and basically this is like a big commercial for Make-A-Wish.
But did you guys watch Back In?
I've watched parts of it. I can't really.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, same thing. Just saw parts of it. And
no. Then I have to stop you right now, because they do address the money issue. They do address like all that stuff.
Yeah, they have, and that's great. But what I mean is that I feel like there was, including kind of the aftermath of that, and I guess that's my big
They
thing.
addressed that too. The aftermath of it too.
No. I believe.
Well, then we should like tie this back into the cereal bowl thing. That way we have a Batman thing to talk about next week.
We'll talk about next week.
All right. So let's tie a bow on that so we don't get too bogged down in tangents.
But I do think it does have a good launching point, more on the original, the Ghost Heads documentary that you're talking about, on how documentaries are made now. And I think that does go to like, there's a lot of documentaries now. I mean, there is, and it used to be like the Red Shirt Pictures thing, and you would have like a featurette length. And now everyone is obsessed with having like, and there's some good things like a Never Sleep Again. It's like, I never expected you could make an 8-hour documentary on a film.
I feel like this is something I want to talk about at some point. But
Sure. We can.
That to me is like, those are like the 8-hour, 9-hour ones for Nightmare on Elm Street. To me, those aren't really documentaries. It's like fan service things, because a real documentary shouldn't be that long. Like, unless it's kind of like a Ken Burns Civil War type thing. I can't equate those as the same thing in my mind.
Well, and that there is a part that it's a worthy note, because, I mean, obviously, like I said, I really enjoyed Making a Murderer last year, and that's a 10-hour. You can't really consider a documentary. You can't really consider a movie. It's like a Ken Burns thing.
It's an investigative discovery type thing.
And there's definitely, and then there's the documentaries that are terrible because they are total fan service.
Yeah.
And
once I get to my movies, I'm going to talk about one.
Do you want to go into it then?
No, well, we're still on Adam.
No, I'm done.
Oh no, I think he said that was his last one.
Okay.
That's why I was transitioning.
Other than Ghostbusters.
Okay, so like I saw a documentary this weekend. It's called Lucha Mexico, and ostensibly it's supposed to be about lucha libre in Mexico, and it's a lot like my review. I'm going to do a review of this on cultfollowing.co, but my big problem with it is the same problem I had with Resurrection of Jake the Snake to a much bigger degree, where like my review is basically, it's a good, Resurrection of Jake the Snake is good. If you know the story going in, it's much better. But if you're coming in cold, you're going to get like little bits of it and not know as much. Like, whereas like Beyond the Mat or something, they tell you everything. You're like, oh, okay, I can come into this cold. Lucha Mexico, if you don't know anything about lucha libre or pro wrestling or anything, I feel like you're gonna come in and out of this really lost, because there's no voiceover, no actual like arc or anything. Like, I'm watching this, I know a lot about lucha libre. It covers 3 different promotions. CMLL, which is like the one that's been around since the early 20th century. It's like the NWA of Mexico, the National Wrestling Alliance, you know. And they own the biggest wrestling coliseum Arena, Mexico, right in the heart of Mexico City. So it's like everyone who's been anybody's been there. And then there's AAA, which is like the WWE of Mexico, where like guys from WWE and up north come down there to wrestle sometimes.
And they change your tire.
Right. And then the third one, Perros del Mal Productions, which is like the ECW, and they talk about how they aim at like the ECW kind of 18 and over, independent wrestling. And they film this over 4 years, and they follow like 4 or 5 different guys, like Shocker, 1000% Guapo is his nickname, and he's been in TNA and a lot of US promotions. And they also follow this guy named John Strongman, who's like a bodybuilder who goes down to Mexico to wrestle. I had no idea who this guy was beforehand. And like Blue Demon Jr. and Pero Aguayo Jr. Now, the reason this is important is Pero Aguayo Jr. is the guy who died a few months ago in a wrestling match fighting Rey Mysterio Jr. Yeah. Okay, so, and they're filming this while this happens, and his death is like not addressed at all in the movie. They address this other guy, Fabian El Gitano, who commits suicide after losing his mask. They make it seem like he committed suicide. Actually, I looked it up. It's more like the Louis Spicolli thing, where he took muscle relaxants and alcohol, and like the Soma deaths. Yeah, and it jumps to talking to these guys for a minute. There's a part where it talks to Blue Demon Jr. and he talks about how he got into wrestling, and it's really interesting, and then they don't come back to that. And it's filmed really beautifully, but there's just like no arc.
Does it just kind of feel like it's cobbled together?
No, it's a lot like the H.R. Giger documentary. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because we all liked that one, but we were all on the same page where it was like, if you know,
like a stream of consciousness.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna follow this for a little bit, then this, and then there's like cool B footage, and it goes to a next thing. But mainly it follows around this guy Shocker, who used to be a big wrestler, got his knee all fucked up, and he's still wrestling. But there's not a tragic wrestler thing to it. Like, he opened a restaurant and he loves wrestling, and it's like, but the whole thing is in Spanish, and it's kind of like, oh man, this is like, I wish somebody with better editing and maybe some voiceover went in and like made this better, because they have so much great footage and kind of didn't tell a coherent story.
Kind of reminds me of what I thought about I Am Thor.
Yeah, a lot like that. It's kind of
like, what's the point, really? I mean, where's the beef?
Yeah, and it's because I've watched it more than once. I'm like, I'll probably watch this more because I'm already interested and know this, and I'm like, I'm seeing little Easter eggs. But if I was shown like, oh, watch this, you're gonna learn about lucha libre. No, you're not. You're gonna come in thinking, oh, well, that's cool that guy does well, and I feel bad for him.
It's more of a scrapbook.
Yeah, and it's not like they even end up tragic. Like this one guy, strong man, like he gets his bicep torn, and he goes back to the U.S. and he starts doing deadlift competitions, and he says, now I spend more time with my family. I'm like, okay, that's actually better. But it's just weird because in the periphery you see the interesting stories that they're just not, like, they don't interview Ray Jr. at all, but they spend a lot of time talking to Pero Aguayo about like how he got into wrestling, and then they never really touch on him after he dies. And they talk to a few people who were in WCW, like Damien 666, and he talks about like, he's talking about all his scars from doing extreme wrestling and everything. It's like, we just give 100%, and I'm like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. I guess they're gonna keep following. No, they don't. It's just weird.
Yeah.
On that same thing, I also saw The Infiltrator with Bryan Cranston and John Leguizamo, and it's basically how can I put this? There's a review on cultfollowing.co. It's one of those movies I wanted to like. It looks very 80s. If you've seen
that's
Blow,
where it's set, right?
Yeah, and it's like it follows around the same kind of storyline as the Cocaine Cowboys documentary. In fact, Michael Pare is in this movie, and he plays one of the informants whose death is talked about in Cocaine Cowboys. but the whole movie is kind of has this weird kickboxer quality to it because it's based on the character who Bryan Cranston plays. He plays a character named Bob Mazur, and he wrote a story about his life as an undercover agent. And he's like the best agent. He never cheats on his wife. He's a straight arrow. So when you watch the Kickboxer, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, it's all about Frank Dukes, and he's like
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. That's it.
I was gonna say. I was like, I don't remember Kickboxer.
Sorry,
being
no.
a true
I'm glad
story,
you called me out. But yeah,
maybe.
Bloodsport. You know exactly what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, he flubbed is putting it like.
Yeah, like the character Jean-Claude Van Damme plays in Bloodsport is based on a real guy named Frank Dukes, and the whole movie's basically set up to say, I'm the best guy ever. My life story is rags to riches.
It's immaculate. It's not just like an embellishment. It's like a completely like, I was always the good guy.
And that's what you kind of feel watching this. Like, there's the Colombian cartel like gives him a hooker, and he won't fuck her because he won't cheat on his wife. It tries to set up like some like chemistry between him and his CIA ordained fiance played by Diane Kruger, and they have these scenes where in any other movie they would kiss and then they just hug, and it's really awkward.
This is almost like O.J. Simpson putting out that book, If I Did It.
Yeah. But the cinematography in this movie is really cool. I thought John Leguizamo did a really good job. And it's like Blow, where it's a self-serving kind of, some of this stuff probably happened, but then you're still like, well, if I want to watch a movie that feels like the 80s, I'll watch Blow or this, Mm-hmm. I also saw...
I just want to say John Leguizamo is super underutilized.
He's really good in this. The guy who directed this movie, I think his name is Tom Furman. He directed Cranston and John Leguizamo in another movie that's kind of called The Lincoln Lawyer. So he's one of these guys who uses the same cast over and over.
Yeah, but he's just one of those guys, like, I just think about him just to see, it's real weird, like, growing up with John Leguizamo, like, I remember him in movies growing up as a kid, but it's weird, like, to think about, like, his mid to late 90s output. I really think his role as Clown Violator in Spawn is the only real redeeming quality.
Oh, that movie?
Yeah.
He does such a great job in that makeup.
He's so perfect. And then, I actually do have a fondness for the movie The Pest.
I really like him in William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, where he plays Tybalt. Yeah, he's like the best. He's the best villain in that movie.
But he's a guy who can really play. And there was a movie that there's a couple other ones. It's just you can't remember off the top of your head. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have to look at the IMDb. But that's the way I put. He's always the standout in a film.
Yeah, and then he's also like Baz Luhrmann. I think also put him in Moulin Rouge because he's like, oh, this guy delivers because he plays Toulouse-Lautrec in that movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's really good in that. He's like the heart of that movie.
Well, he's got kinetic energy.
Yeah,
but I think sometimes when he has that much presence and kind of over the top comedic delivery, that it kind of feels like Rob Schneider-ish in some ways.
He tries to mix it up, but like the serious
But when he does like a serious film,
like
it's
Summer of Sam or something.
He's really good.
That's the one I was going to say where he really is the standout and stuff. But it's I was just going to say The Pest could have been a Rob Schneider vehicle very easily.
I think that's more what I was getting at.
I can still instantly picture the VHS box art of that with the bright yellow and red. Yeah.
With the target.
Yeah.
I'm saying, unfortunately, like some of his acting, he's interchangeable.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was getting at.
I can see that
he can be, but he's one of those guys. His presence when it's on is on.
No, that's
I will say this about John Leguizamo: his little bit, like he has a little bit role in John Wick. I don't think that movie would have worked without him in the beginning of that movie establishing what a badass John Wick is when he won't take in his stolen car because he's like, oh, you guys are fucked. You're fucked.
Yeah, he was great in that. Now I think about you know who the fuck you stole this from?
Yeah, he just like, that's all you need is John Leguizamo saying is do you know who my dad is? Like, tell him who hit you. And then it's like, you hit my son. They stole John Wick's car. Oh.
It's true.
I saw Cell, which is based on a Stephen King novel starring John Cusack and Samuel Jackson and the chick who played Esther in Orphan.
Yeah.
God.
What's her name? Furman.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But that's such a weird movie. I feel like maybe 10 years ago if it had been
In
made
between Hearts and Atlantis and Secret Window.
John Leguizamo was terribly miscast in this movie. And it seems like nobody...
Wait, are we talking about The Cell?
No, it's called Cell.
Cell? I'm sorry.
And it's basically he's in an airport, and he's a comic book artist with an estranged marriage, and he's trying to fly back home to be with his wife and son. So in many ways, it's kind of like World War Z, and I wonder if this got dumped because it's very similar.
Is it John Leguizamo?
No, John Cusack.
Okay, so that's why I asked. I said, what movie are we talking about?
John Cusack. John Cusack, comic book artist, trying to get back to his wife. Suddenly, there's a big thing on everyone's cell phones, and anyone who heard the signal turns into
die in 7 days.
Turns into a cross between a zombie and the Invasion of the Body Snatchers hive mind. So they're all trying to turn everyone into part of the hive mind, and if not,
At World's End. Sorry.
Well, kind of, yeah. Actually,
I'm just starting to
no,
different
really,
stuff that reminds me of
it's
there.
very much that. It's kind of taking everyone over for part of this network, and they're a big hive mind. And nobody's cell phone, if they use their cell phone, it turns you into a monster, and the whole world turns Walking Dead in about a day and a half.
So Pokemon Go.
My review was actually mentioning that. But it's just John Cusack just can't emote gravitas. And Samuel Jackson is just Samuel Jackson. You find out he's gay in a throwaway line.
You know, I think John Cusack is kind of getting that I'm just bored of doing movies.
Yeah, he's very bored in this movie
style.
And I think his I know Kirby does this sometimes, and I'm going to be guilty of it too. He is so self-conscious about his hair in this movie that it overrides everything.
I believe it.
Because it has his pitch black dyed thinning hair, which is really obvious in Maps to the Stars or any of the other movies you've seen. And the rest of the movie, he's either wearing his hoodie jacket over it or a beanie, even though it doesn't make any sense and no one else does. It's all you start to notice after a while. It's like, okay, you're not happy with your hair. I get it. And it's kind of bizarre. If you don't want to be the action guy, then put out a pocket for a wig dude. I don't know. Brendan Fraser it.
I'm not that unhappy, but yes, self-conscious. It's not because I have any kind of thinning or balding.
Oh, I don't mean you personally.
No. But I am very. But one of the big things is I don't like having. That's why I used to cut my hair super short. I hate having hairs out of place. And like right now, I've just started having like some kind of like self-intervention where I'm just like letting it go, just getting messy.
Oh yeah, all I was referencing was the Brendan Fraser thing from last time. I wasn't talking about you personally.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I was like, no. I was like, oh well, that's true too. But the Brendan Fraser, I was gonna say no one is.
We spent a lot of time talking about that last time.
That's true.
Yeah, don't go down that path.
Yeah.
It's funny though you talk about like him not caring about acting, because I was just gonna say the two people who also have the hair thing that are in the exact same boat is Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, who I really just do not think care at all about anything. And I mean, the financial problems aside.
Well, it's weird because I feel for the longest time John Travolta went out of his way to try to show he had like a full hairline, like in Swordfish, and now like in movies he has these really weirdly manicured like Captain Picard type hair pieces. So I'm just actually convinced he's completely like Lex Luthor bald right now.
Well, I think
in that movie is from Something with Love. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, from Paris. Yeah. Where he was the assassin.
Yeah, and I'm like, he didn't look that bad bald. He should just let it go.
Yeah, well, he's one of those dudes who, he did take a picture with some guy, like a selfie, a couple years back, where he was at the gym, and he took a picture of this guy, and he had no hairpiece on, and it's just very thin. Like,
yeah,
it's just...
and if you see Savages, that terrible Blake Lively movie, yeah, he has like this like toupee that's the Homer Simpson kind of hair, but you can tell it's a toupee because it's got that chia thing going on. So maybe he's okay with it. It's like no, that's for acting. And it's like, okay, dude, just let it go.
So I was wondering not too long ago to kind of put an end cap on stuff that you put on your head.
Yeah.
I was wondering if when people get the hair club for men, or I mean, not to to single out any particular organization who helps people, relocate their hair, is that kind of almost like LASIK, where it only lasts for a certain amount of time and then your follicles die again?
No, I
think
no. I knew a guy who did this when I was a kid because I think our neighbor did it. What they do is, the back of your head, right here.
No, I know the process.
Yeah, they
but
just
I'm wondering,
cut it out. It's like surgery.
Right.
So where it has the light, and they just plant it, and then it still has the live follicles.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering.
It either takes or it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one, oh god, it's right in my head. The shampoo and all.
Rogaine?
Rogaine.
Minoxidil.
I always think of the episode I always think halfway Samson Delilah episode of Simpsons and or Simpson Delilah, and then the body bags, John Carpenter's body bags. I always think of, but it really is that I think that with a lot of those things, it's either to stimulate growth or they'll just transplant stuff. I mean,
well, I was more so wondering if it's a permanent.
No, I don't think any of them are 100% permanent.
Because I think Tommy Dreamer did it. And for a while it did fill in. Tommy Dreamer, the wrestler, and it did fill in, but it's been 10 years and now he has got same bald spot.
It's the same thing as Jason Alexander. He's again has the Captain Picard where he's bald on the top and then he has the sides and the back. But I remember that he was going through that process at one point.
I don't think. But
now he's bald again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to look at Burning is 1981. And he is already, his hair is so thin and stuff. I mean, I come from a family, actually, I shouldn't say I have some degree of thinning hair, but it's one of those things where I truly believe if I ever lost my hair, and I am coming up on 40, it's one of those ones where, I wish I could grow a beard. I would let it go a lot easier. But I, still have a full head. My father and most of my family does. But it's one of those things where I do think there's a humble grace in letting go of things you can't control, because I can tell
that's kind of what I'm doing, because I want to get all salt and peppery in the whole.
Well, that's another one, going gray. It's if I go gray, I go gray. There's I've dyed my hair black a lot of times anyways, so I might keep dyeing it. But if I go gray, I don't think there's Bill Burr does a piece about it. It's like grow old gracefully. We are gonna look better and better anyways as we get older, because we don't have a lot of things.
I got a good segue to this
from our parents. I go, we're not out in the sun working 12 hours a day, and we don't do a lot of the habits. So I say I think it's a good thing, but just let it go. Don't try. And it's like the airbrushing people do. It just kills me. Not just literally in photos. People are literally trying to airbrush themselves now to have a mask to walk out, and it's not like something like, oh, I have vitiligo or some other skin that it maybe makes me feel uncomfortable. It's like, that's okay to have something like that, but do not it's like, God, man, just be yourself. It's gonna be okay. Sorry, segue it in.
The segue is so I was watching the new Netflix series Stranger Things this weekend. I'm not done with it yet.
Same with me. I'm 4 episodes in.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good. If you like 80s movies, if you like The Goonies or Explorers, if you like Stand By Me, if you like Firestarter, you will like this. It's pretty much all that in a blender. But Winona Ryder is in this, and she is single-handedly the worst thing about this show so far. Yeah, I'm 5 episodes in, and she's just, her character is literally, her son disappears in 4 episodes of hysterical crying and screaming. And the whole
That's
time,
not your thing.
And the whole time I'm thinking Winona Ryder used to be so cute, and she had so much plastic surgery in her 30s and probably early 40s that she looks like she's like an actress wearing a Winona Ryder prosthetic mask. It's really noticeable. It's really bad.
Now you can't talk about that, Victor. That's wrong.
No, but it's just one of those things.
Are you gonna attack Meg Ryan
next?
No.
And I'm not gonna make this a bigger issue. What I'm saying is, it's really bizarre how, like, you know, for the longest time the aesthetic was like try to stay young as much as possible, but now when I see like you know, like Sally Field in something, or a lot of actresses like, or Meryl Streep, who've just let themselves age naturally, I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot more refreshing than seeing like the Joan Rivers kind of movement that's kind of gone by the wayside, you know, because I want to see people on TV who look like people, you know, not like people.
Yeah, I guess no. I mean,
that's all I'm saying. I know. Yeah,
I do want to bring it up because the only quick thing I want to say about that is that it's important is that people go, well, you know, again, and it's going to segue well into our main topic of some of the controversy is that I don't think people can make life-affirming statements to say to people, be who you are, you know, be who you are naturally. I mean, do what you want that is going to make you happy, but you know, it's at the same time, because I'm not going to tell anybody what not to do, like plastic surgery or whatever, but I do think people, if you want to talk about true self-acceptance, I mean, more and more, not only are people so entrenched in looking like somebody else that it's like, or like you said, like the Winona Ryder mask, it's like, I want people to recognize me. It's like people would recognize you if you just looked natural. Yeah, I've never seen anybody age that truly looked completely different, 100%. Like I couldn't tell them out of a lineup, like if you were to show me. So I don't know why people do it, but anything else besides, I was gonna bring up Stranger Things too, but
no, that's all. I mean, like the new season of Mr. Robot started and it's all right so far. I'm still of the opinion like that's a show like Scream Queens that really doesn't need a second season, and I kind of wish they wouldn't do one, but it was on sale for Prime Day for $7 the whole season, so I'm just gonna write it out.
Well, supposedly he had the whole I think like 3 seasons already kind of outlined. Anyways,
it's
so he said, well, if the first one does well, then you know, he'll continue on with what he has season, as far as a full vision. Yeah. But if season 1 was all they got and no one watched it and they canceled it, he would have been fine with that. Yeah. It's not like a True Detective sort of thing where they just completely, you know, gutted themselves.
It just seems unnecessary, but like I watched the first 2 and they're doing more like the thing in Fight Club where Tyler can take control of the narrative.
Right, but you know, the thing is that, you know, this came out at a time where it's very topical.
Yeah.
No, this second season is like just so like looking into a mirror.
Yeah.
Of what's going on in society.
I did like the thing they're doing where they're doing like Obama is in it in footage, and they're having
they're doing the contact thing.
Yeah, or you know, they have somebody doing an Obama voice and the lips match what he's saying. Right. Yeah, it's like clever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like Contact.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, it's just Ghostbusters is the only other thing I saw.
Yeah, we can talk about those. Yeah, I definitely want to bring up Stranger Things, but I think you covered it pretty well. Mm-hmm. I was going to say that actually, though, real quick, that I thought Explorers, people keep saying Goonies, but I totally got more of an Explorers.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what I'm going to say, but I keep seeing reviews, and people always say Goonies first. I think Stand By Me is a great point, too.
Yeah, I think those are the main 3 I'm getting is Explorers, Stand By Me, and Firestarter, because 11 is totally Firestarter. I
was also going to say there is a huge... I mean, it's the way he writes his books is kind of like it, but it is totally Dean R. Kuntz's Watchers. More the original book than the Corey Haim movie, but the original book, which I did read when I was young.
One Easter egg I did like is when the cop is visiting the morgue to check on the body, that the guard is reading a book that has Stephen King's picture on the back. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
The only one I was going to point out real quick on the Easter egg and stuff, there's some very realistic, obviously, like set dressings and set design. But the one with the fucking Evil Dead poster, I'm like, Evil Dead came out in 1983. There's an Evil Dead poster on the one kid's wall, the older brother, and I'm sitting here going, okay, that film, no one would own a poster of it.
Oh, no, there's another kid who has the Thing poster, and that movie bombed. Yeah.
Now, I believe, because the Thing was more mass market, you might see that, maybe, by chance. But not, I mean, a theater had, in a town like that, if you even had a theater, had like one screen.
Yeah, I could tell you the one thing. And actually, there's something very, very similar in Ghostbusters we'll talk about. But
Eventually, jeez.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Sorry, this happens sometimes. I will say the fact that all the kids are using walkie-talkies to talk to each other. I've seen so much 80s nostalgia type shit in the last however many years. It's about fucking time that it shows kids using walkie-talkies to talk to each other. That is how kids played with that.
As long as you were about 30 feet away. After that, they were useless.
But you even saw it in movies at the time. I feel like,
oh sure,
yeah, it just became totally forgotten. Like, thank God someone remembered how big CB radio and walkie-talkies were in the 1980s. Because that's it. That's the cell phones of the day. Anyway.
Yeah, 10-year-old kids.
Yeah. Right before I started Stranger Things, because it just got added, I'll just quick mention, I had never seen Penny Dreadful.
It's good.
I'm about like 4 or 5 episodes.
It's very Hammer.
I'm willing to continue to give it a shot. I'm finally catching up on some of the stuff I bought over the years. Well, that's a long ways to go, but the stuff I bought over the last week, I did check out on that Barnes & Noble sale, and I did pick up The Brood and Quieten. The Brood, obviously a Cronenberg classic. Quieten, I've actually always wanted to see, is a Japanese anthology film. It's over 3 hours long, and it's 4 folk tales, supernatural folk tales. And one
is the one that has a kabuki mask on the cover, right?
Kind of, yeah. Well, no, that's Oni Baba. That's Oni Baba. Quieten has the one with the picture of he's being his face is being
right. I keep forgetting Oni Baba and Kuro Neko mixed up. My bad.
But it's all good. Yeah. But it's the one thing I will just point out real fast is that one of my favorite, everyone who knows me, I love anthology horror. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is one of my favorites. And literally, Lover's Vow, which is my favorite segment, is taken verbatim from this Quieten story, basically. It has its own twist, of course. I mean, that's its originality points, but the basic premise is totally the same. An oft-forgotten 70s film that's one of my favorites just got the ultra deluxe treatment and very limited numbers in releases. Blue Sunshine, which was directed by Jeff Lieberman, who's one of my kind of unsung favorites. He did Squirm, Just Before Dawn, and Remote Control over the years, and he is just a phenomenally fun director, and he always has really interesting elements and ideas. And a new company called Film Centrics releasing put out like a 3-disc edition of it, and it is beautiful. Like, it is unbelievable how nice this edition is, and I think it's only it was $35 plus shipping, I think, but it is just absolutely gorgeous. I do hope to have a review up of it, but I don't think they've released anything else. This is just their first project, but very cool.
Yeah, I've not even heard of that one. I've seen his other works, but
yeah, very cool stuff. I did pick up the Scream one, speaking of them, for Return of the Living Dead, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 78, Manhunter.
I gotta 86. Get that Body Snatchers.
Yeah, I figured you would. Eventually, I'll let you know what I
just hate those. That. I hate that Nathan Thomas Miller
art.
So terrible.
Well, thankfully, most of them have the if you don't like it, the reversible covers. Yeah. Adam, I actually was kind enough. I've never seen Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah.
He let me borrow the first volume. I definitely enjoyed it.
It's on Netflix. I don't know if I would like it or not.
It's on Netflix now?
Yeah.
Or
Hulu. No, it's on Hulu.
I don't think it's on
Hulu. I borrowed it from Adam, just the first volume. Really liked it. I probably will do a review of Secret Life of Pets if eventually here probably this week. And the only other one I was going to say came from a recommendation from Victor, and I'll let him talk on it because I still don't know what the fuck I watched, is Matt versus Jeff Hardy, The Final Deletion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a 17-minute match. You can watch it on YouTube. I don't know what the hell to say, man. I really don't even know. I am so out of the loop with the Hardys, with most of the TNA. Well, if you
watch the right version, is it start with the birthday party?
Yes,
okay.
With the birthday
That's
party.
That's all you really need.
Yeah, it is, I did check, like I said, I mentioned this guy, Brian Zane, who does Wrestling with Regret on YouTube. His review of it kind of filled in a little bit of the gaps for me. But yeah, like the changing accents and then the drone fight and the lawnmower wars, and I don't even know what else to say. And then the match itself.
Just to tie people in, and we'll do this really quickly.
Yeah, real quick.
So basically, there's a wrestling promotion that airs on Pop TV. It's called Total Nonstop Action Impact Wrestling, and it has two guys in it who were big in the WWF in the 90s, named Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys. They've been feuding in TNA because Matt became the champion, and the pressure of being champion made him snap when he lost it, and he blames his brother Jeff. So he snapped and became this weird character called Broken Matt Hardy, who basically has a giant white streak in his hair, and he talks like a foppish 17th century French character, even though he's from like South Carolina, and he's kind of just snapped. And so they had a match called the Final Deletion, where if Matt wins, he gets the right to his brother's name and likeness and money. And then what they did is, that's kind of weird, is they filmed it like a movie. So it has special effects. It's filmed outside with tiki torches. He attacks him with CGI drones that can project holograms, and it just blew up and became this thing that was like The Room. Or
it is.
Yeah, it's like a little movie, and it's super bizarre. Yeah, like Birdemic.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's totally in the conversation of that kind of shit. It's just bizarre, and you can watch it for free on YouTube. But yeah, it's weird. It's like Trapped in the Closet or one of these bizarre little found footage thing, like a shot on. It's the modern version of a shot on video movie.
That's what I was actually gonna say too. Even the match itself looks like, I mean, it literally is backyard wrestling. Yeah. And like amateur 100%, but it's just so unique. Like at the same time, like no one's done something like this, and probably no one ever will again.
Yeah.
But Victor recommended. I had to check it out as a wrestling fan as well, and
yeah, it's like a weird
to say
movie.
The least.
It's a weird movie. That's all I can say.
Cool.
And then we all saw Ghostbusters, which opened to a lot of controversy because people were like, "How dare you rape my childhood by casting women as these characters?" No. I grew up watching on the first movie and the cartoon, and it just lots of controversy. The angry video game nerd refused to review it, claiming, Ghostbusters is really a horror movie with comedic elements. I watched this review and I'm like, how the fuck would anyone think that?
When I was a kid, it was scary as hell to me personally. But I was a kid. That was one of my first exposures to horror.
And ultimately, it gets to that point. It's like of remakes versus reboots in the original. Like, does a remake or reboot nullify the original movie? I don't think that it does. But then it's weird, in the last few years, I feel like there's been this re-examination of like the Ghostbusters movies, where like I remember watching Ex Machina last year. There's a scene where what's his name? The guy from Frank, who's an asshole.
Todd?
No, Dominic,
Rick.
Whatever, the red-haired guy.
Right.
And he's talking to Oscar Isaac's character, and he's trying to use the phone, and Oscar Isaac says, like, who you gonna call? And then he's like, what? No, I'm making a Ghostbusters reference. What? Ghostbusters, that movie where Dan Aykroyd gets a blowjob from a ghost? And then I feel like most people are on the boat. The first Ghostbusters is a really good movie, and I think it is. It's one of the solid 80s comedies, whereas Ghostbusters 2, which I've rewatched recently, is just kind of terrible.
I differ on that. I like Ghostbusters 2. I didn't like it when it came out. I appreciate it better now. I don't like the story, but I thought the jokes in there were actually pretty good.
I like segments.
And that's all it really is. But they had a lot of really good one-liners in there that I forgot were in just Ghostbusters 2 that I thought were in Ghostbusters 1.
I still think my favorite bit of Ghostbusters 2 is the fake paranormal show that Peter Venkman has.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, when's the world going to end? February 14th, 2016. Wow. Valentine's Day. Bomber.
Yeah.
That's the best one-liner in that
Well, he's
movie.
got. I mean, I think his interactions with Dana are great in it.
The baby story is what kills me. That and the whole Vigo and the...
See, I like the Vigo story, and I like the idea of the
I like the callback to Vigo in the new Ghostbusters. The girl ghost at the beginning, and the painting is really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have a exact... I'm split down the middle on Ghostbusters 2. I saw it in the theater. It's one of the only films I remember seeing as a kid, being very excited because I was a big Ghostbusters and real Ghostbusters fan as well.
I love real Ghostbusters.
And I love real Ghostbusters. And that is one of the few shows from my childhood that stands up.
It just came out on DVD like
well,
a
it was
week
out
or
a
two.
while ago,
Yeah,
but
reissued.
the cheap set is finally out.
So
Yeah,
I'm actually considering getting it.
It's worth
because the
the
animation is really good too.
Yeah, great voice acting, great everything. But I mean that, I don't. My whole thing with nostalgia is, and to defend James Rolfe, because I will on the respect is that my thing is the main thing I don't agree with is that I do not think you need to see something to have an opinion or whatever is listened to. Wait,
what are you talking about? Who's James Rolfe?
Angry Video Game Nerd.
Okay.
Sorry. Because he actually did as James Rolfe, his actual the person, himself, not the character of the AVGN. Although it's obviously on the Cinemassacre channel. I don't agree with everything he says. I didn't agree with everything he said in that. My view on it. The Birth movie's death one is the rebuttal is absolutely ludicrous overall to me personally. To James's points, my big one.
I have to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I do think there's an inherent misogyny in his viewpoint because he doesn't realize it though.
I get what you're saying.
This is the thing. Like you can have like opinions on things and not know where that reaction is coming from, and I kind of think that's part of it. Where he's like. Especially when he says, I wanted a movie where the original crew gets together and hands it off to the new guys.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I do think that's mining, though. I really think people are looking for something that, to me, is not there. I do not buy into a lot of the ideas of the whole, like, microaggressions thing. I do think that you can say that point, because I think that you can say, hey, where does this come from? And I'm not saying... I don't think it's necessarily
a negative thing.
No,
I think realistically, the movie he wanted was never going to happen. There was a good 20 years. No, I listened to it. I know.
Well, no, not that one. His other video, the history of Ghostbusters 3, which does bring up the points of why it wasn't made and why it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But my point onto that thing is not that. It's that the one thing two things I would attack James for, or at least not attack him, challenge him, is that I do think there is a point though. You do need to watch something to have a truly informed opinion about it.
And some of the things he talks about in his first video are addressed in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think his problem, he could have written an article or something. It's like, okay, I just don't think this movie's for me. Maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't. When you take a big stand like, boom, I refuse to review this
people
movie.
Do that all the time.
No. But he has a platform where it's based completely on nostalgia. Like all these guys, they sent the Ecto Cooler to because they want you to get excited because like I have such a thing for Ecto Cooler.
But that's my second opinion. Is that where I would challenge him is that you cannot, when people are so knee deep in nostalgia, which is in a horrible affliction. Not just with the idea of people going, and I'm here, I'm vegan, but I'll slaughter every sacred cow I possibly can. Because my view is I don't care about remakes, re-releases, any of them, because I've enjoyed some of them. A lot of them I haven't. But there's a lot of original ideas, putting that in quotations, where people are like, oh, this is so original, it's so edgy and groundbreaking. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It's a retread of something else.
No, that was my whole stance on the Neon Demon. And I've been fighting people on that all month. They're like, you don't get it. This is like Possession. You're like saying it's a Lynch movie and that's all that it is. I'm like, no, I've seen Possession. I know like her fucking the corpse is supposed to be like Isabella Johnny fucking that squid thing. I get it. I've seen, and you have not seen enough Alejandro Jodorowsky movies to tell me I don't know that Nicholas Winding Refn is just fucking biting Holy Mountain or Santa Sangre here and there and throwing it into a blender and say, this is deep. You know?
Well, and the
just didn't mean to get off on a whole thing.
No, it's a good point though, to get off on stuff. And I will say there's certain films that, you know, are better than the originals to me. Like, as much as I love The Hills Have Eyes, I really love The Hills Have Eyes remake.
Yeah. And it is good. It's really good.
And horror is a really big horror, sci-fi, fantasy, what's known as cult or pop culture or whatever it is. And my whole thing is this: I am not afraid. The one thing though is to say that there is a huge wave of misogyny regarding this film, because to ignore that is totally wrong.
No, and I feel like it is addressed inherently in the movie too.
Yeah,
like if we get into it, the internet jokes, but I feel specifically the villain of this movie is supposed to represent people like him.
And it is, and that's where the only part where I thought, okay, that was a really, I think there's a cheapness to it, because it's
it feels totally ADR'd after the fact.
Yeah,
because they're fighting during the movie, and it's like, oh, I've got your virginity here in the Lost and Found, and then she shoots, and it's like, ha, you shoot like a girl. Like, I feel like those two callbacks during the movie were really unnecessary, and it feels like I'm gonna throw that in there as a dig to these people.
Well, and I think it's just like the one scene that I really did not like was the idea of the whole diner scene where it's like where he's like, you serve him this time, it's like he's your table this time.
Yeah, because that does seem kind of stupid.
Okay, that's really
that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are people who go that, and I'm not saying it. There is plenty of behavior where it is stalkerish, aggressive, you know, whatever. And there's I see a lot of men who are not willing to acknowledge.
Well, that scene
but there's also like that's an inherent prejudice that's unacceptable as well. Like,
I wouldn't go that far. I will say they're trying to establish that he's a creeper, but that's already been established. That scene wouldn't happen in real life, and we already know he's weird because of the thing he tells Patty in the subway terminal about the laborers in the fourth cataclysm.
Well, yeah, and that's funnier.
It is funnier. In fact, that scene there negates that other scene needing to take place, or when he's in the basement of the hotel and you see all his achievements, and then they still treat him like shit. So that tells you he's been bullied. That's why he went bad, and he's asocial because of the scene in the subway. That's all you need.
I actually like Patty in that film, in that part, because you see her as the very like friendly person, and it's like, and her reaction is not mean. It's like, I don't know.
It's a realistic scene.
Very realistic. Like, I don't know where you're coming from, but to me, that's the issue. Is the idea of the creeper becomes its own stereotype, where it's like there is behavior that needs to be addressed. That's either not okay in society, in any society, or is literally illegal. But I also think that there is also like, that's become its own thing too, where it's like, well, I can just brand you this, and that's all you are. It's kind of like,
we might be going too deep, because it's a stock stereotypes too that they're using. Well, and I don't want to. I feel like we're shutting Adam out too.
I don't want to shut Adam out.
Yeah,
come here.
What?
Come here.
No. Well, at first it started out, you're giving a review of a criticism of somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
Well, so here's my
trying to find a perspective. So let's start there.
Okay, so 1984, 10-year-old Adam.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters was like everything.
Okay.
Fred and I just completely immersed ourselves into the Ghostbusters world, probably even more so I did than he did. Mm-hmm. So we always tried to get our little group of 3 or 4 people, and we would dress up. We called ourselves Toastbusters because, of course, we didn't want any infringements or Columbia Pictures coming after us as 10-year-old kids. We went door to door asking if we could go into the house and make sure that the house didn't have any ghosts in it, or if they had any disturbances. And then we'd ask if they had a piano, because you'd always do the high keys because the ghosts don't like that. Of course, some neighbors were kind of freaked out, or thought it was cute or whatever.
Yeah,
that was like that whole, I think, almost like full circle year afterwards. So it was my life. By the time Ghostbusters 2 came out, I was in that point of being in junior high, where Ghostbusters 2 really wasn't. Ghostbusters wasn't really a thing for me anymore.
Yeah.
Toys were not a thing for me at that time. It's like now you want to be more of like a high schooler.
Yeah.
So Ghostbusters 2 didn't really mean anything to me at that time, other than maybe the one-liners and maybe a little bit. I mean, that was like pre-nostalgia. Yeah. When this version was announced and everything started kind of, the set pieces were put in place and casting and directors and director and everything like that, I thought to myself, well, this is unnecessary. And how are they going to do this? Is it going to be beat for beat the same story as the first one? Are they going to dovetail off the second one? Did the Ghostbusters still exist in that universe, or is this a new thing? And where they took it, and okay, this is a spoiler cast, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a new thing. But at the same time, I like how they handled the aspect of sweeping them under the rug, which is kind of what they were trying to achieve in between the original Ghostbusters 84 and Ghostbusters 2 in 89, where there was a lot of stuff in Ghostbusters 2 where they're like, you guys are charlatans, you made all this up, it was all a hallucination of the entire city, you poisoned the water, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
In this new one, with what they did with the mayor and the assistant and everything, the mayor's aide.
The assistant was great, by the way. I just felt like that's exactly what you would do.
Yeah. Andy Garcia was great in this.
He was just chewing the scenery.
He needs to be in the sequel of this movie.
Yeah.
He was awesome. That one line where he's like, "I'm not the Jaws mayor. Don't call me the Jaws mayor."
Yeah, that was a nice.
Yeah,
that's one
insider.
of the true laugh out loud moments.
Yeah.
But see, that was one of the more refreshing things, where it didn't necessarily beat you over the head, but there were two beat points in there where they kept getting swept under the rug, and it was kind of a microcosm of their pursuit of controlling what they discovered as a threat to the entire city.
Yeah.
So, whereas Ghostbusters 1 felt like it was a lot bigger than what it actually was, location-wise, this one felt more contained.
I like that it was even though there's the New York cataclysm it was just to a few blocks, it seemed.
Right.
It wasn't a huge story. Not everything has to be a huge story.
Right.
But what I did like is that it hinted that there's a bigger universe here where ghosts exist and the government kind of knows how to handle them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh no, Homeland Security, we know how to deal with this kind of situation.
Right.
So down the line, they can play with that. So that was a good thing to throw in there.
Yeah, and then, it's just like any other kind of, I guess, statement on the government is they really don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Overall, I give it like a C. I didn't love it, and I didn't hate it. Anne liked it more than I did. I think she really liked the characters. I liked the characters too. There just wasn't enough meat on the bone. Maybe.
Well, I think that's really high praise coming from you because you don't like any of Paul Feig's other movies.
Well, that's not completely true.
You said you didn't like Bridesmaids, which I feel like this is very similar to.
I never really saw the whole
I didn't feel like it was Bridesmaids. Yeah. No. But one thing I will say that I've seen a lot of reviews on that I do think nails it is that it feels like McCarthy and Witt are like duking it out for the lines, whereas Jones and McKinnon are more like natural together.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get that.
Oh, see, I really felt like McCarthy, especially for me, and I loved Bridesmaids. I love Spy. I like a lot of I like those films a lot.
Because the thing is, Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig are the co-leads. Usually in these movies, one of them is the lead and somebody else is playing.
I thought that too.
Playing to them.
I got that.
I thought McCarthy was actually like low key in this.
No, she is very low key.
And I think that was a good thing because I feel like we've talked about. And I've talked about Melissa McCarthy, and there has to be a kind of judicious use of her in movies, because if you go too physical, it turns into farce. But she is good at physical comedy, and I felt like they found the right.
They balanced it well.
Yeah,
it doesn't turn into farce; it turns into Farley.
No,
it's literally
if
you overuse
it turns not in this movie, but
it turns too much into. I agree with that. My thing for this is that's exactly how I felt. I don't know, even on grading, is it liked it, didn't love it, didn't hate it, and that's the thing. And I never went in with the attitude, I'm gonna hate this movie or I'm gonna love this movie, because that's where I truly feel the whole controversy thing is that I feel like there's so many people who wanted to hate this for no good reason or for reasons that are total bullshit, and then I feel like there are people who are defending it for no good reason or because it was total bullshit reasons, and I don't like either of those sides. I feel like when people actually sat down and watched it, I felt like most people walked away with that attitude. Now there's some people who loved it, some people hated it, but I think most of the audience I saw it with, I felt like I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too. Out. I feel it's very rewatchable, which I think is the best thing you could say about this movie. Even though, like in my review, and a lot of people share this, and this is one of the things I think is interesting. On cultfollowing.co, our two highest, most viewed, most shared reviews this year are Batman vs. Superman and Ghostbusters. No. So that just tells you when people really don't have an opinion or want something, it's the stuff that's like, I don't know what to think, that's what they're gonna look to. And we've had a lot of people share it on Facebook and post comments on the thing that's like, I really agree with this, and like, basically what I keep seeing is, and this is what I like hit on my review, is like, I think like the first two parts of this movie are really good, and they have some big problems in the third act. And we're on the Spoilercast, right? They go full Stay Puft with Rowan as the Ghostbuster ghost in this movie. Right. Like, and then there's a scene at the end of the credits where they hint at Zool for the next one.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can do Zool as a villain for Ghostbusters 2 if you've already done the choose your form of your destroyer thing in this movie. Unless you're going to totally reinvent the wheel. And that was kind of my problem with this, is when they did the fan service, I felt like it leaned way too much into that.
I hated all the cameos, and I'm not afraid to say that all. I didn't like because when the first one comes up is Murray.
No. You missed the
Annie.
You missed the first cameo then.
There's a first cameo.
Oh.
The first cameo is Harold Ramis, and that was the best one.
Yeah. No, I do remember. No, I couldn't remember sequentially where everybody came up. I thought the one for Annie Potts was really clever.
Yeah.
As a simple one that
I can tell you what I think the worst one is. I think Dan Aykroyd has the worst one.
He was terrible.
Yeah, and it's I can tell you it's a bad cameo for a lot of reasons. One is Dan Aykroyd, and as soon as like, I need to write. These are class 5s. You're like, so you're being Ray. You're being Ray in a movie where we told you there's no Ghostbusters, and then you're there to say the tagline from the first movie.
Yeah,
it's like fan service, and it really bothered me. Like, dude, you just made her look bad by like kind of second guessing her opinion, and I'm sure the diehards like, "Ooh, he's playing Ray," and I'm like,
No, I don't think there's anybody.
I don't think there was for that. There were people.
No, when I saw it with all the Ghostbusters, and there were people cheering for that little line right there.
And that's
they were on high at Ecto Cooler.
That's where I'll stand. Yeah, on the Ecto Cooler that's been well.
They were
fermented.
overstimulated.
But for me, it's that's where I want to say that to me is the good thing. I've always said it. We've said it in other podcasts, or I've mentioned it. If you want Ghostbusters 3, it's Ghostbusters the video game.
Yeah.
And if you want
it has all the voices and everything.
New, yeah. If you want something new, I never have been opposed to it, and that's my final stance on it. Really, is just that it shouldn't be. It won't. Is that I went in and I watched it. I didn't love it, but it's one of those things where, like Adam kind of mentioned, when you and people who are honest with themselves about any kind of fandom is really reevaluate it without the rose tinted glasses.
Well, here's because I just need to cut in because this is I have a point right here. We saw this movie twice last week. Okay, we saw the press screening, and they had 2 full screenings of it. So they set us in the back next to the Arizona Ghostbusters, the original costume Ghostbusters that we don't really hang out with at all. But they're the ones with the Ecto car and everything. And it was all the dudes there, the older guys. And we were watching it, everyone's laughing. These guys, stone-faced. Like, just, you could see, like...
Well, I can tell you, I didn't laugh once in the movie.
I don't see how that's possible.
I
didn't.
It's really funny.
I didn't. I'm not gonna say I laughed a huge amount because I didn't at all. That's not true. But I will say the one standout for me in this film is Kate McKinnon. As the Holtzman
she's awesome.
She was awesome. Like, and I truly think putting her more towards, because people are like, man, her role is super obnoxious, and I'm like, I get
what?
Who said that?
There were people who said that they felt it was
name names.
I don't remember shit, man.
I thought she was so funny right from the get-go.
But that's the thing is that's what I thought was clever about her. There were people who were saying that what I mean by that is that it was like they thinking that she tried and like push her way to the forefront. I said no. Mm-mm. She was always.
If anything, I think Paul Feig was like, because he could have done the whole movie with her as the main character. But then he was smart to keep her restrained because she didn't get overexposed.
I'll tell you what I think.
She's the Venkman character to me.
Oh, to me, it's like, this is in my review. I don't think they've really fallen to easy archetypes.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant more like, I feel like that's where I'm saying that it's clever, is that she takes a lot of the style, the sarcasm, and all that, not stone faced, but that it's that a winking eye with saying, but she's not the lead, like that main character, but she ends up stealing all the scenes for me personally.
When I finished watching it, I was glad that they had as much of her in it as they did. And when I really thought about how they took the essence of the original Ghostbusters and the main three characters, I'm sorry, Ernie Hudson, you're kind of the lackey, that she embodied the original three. She had every little bit of each three of those guys.
Well, she was the brains,
but she wasn't full on Harold Ramis. She wasn't full on Venkman, and she wasn't full on Stantz. She kind of embodied all.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of almost feel like they were all like that, versus like, because I think the original Ghostbusters are all like,
but they were all very big standouts.
Yeah. Like, they all had their, like, specific qualities, and it's like Ray was kind of the mix of Egon and Peter in a way, and then Peter was just fun-loving, like, I do the least science of everybody, and Egon's, like, the hardcore brain.
Yeah, but I wasn't saying, like, there's a definite, you can point things on
that's what I'm saying, but that would be the archetype in the film no matter what, because you have to. Someone has to be, they have to have scientific, and I remember there was a lot of, that's the other quick controversial point, is her character, the character of Patty was, you made the one black woman not the scientist, and I said, but that to me was always the point of, I always liked about the Winston character was the idea of, imagine being a layperson and taking this job and being like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, I've always
that's the audience member.
That's the true audience member.
And I think that was the smart thing about this movie, that you could kind of see yourself as any one of these characters. I mean, in a lot of ways, like, rewatching the first couple Ghostbusters, I mean, we get that Peter is supposed to be a scientist, but he really never really comes off as one, except for like a few minutes.
Pseudoscience,
yeah, exactly.
He's a snake oil guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like they found a lot of ways to make Patty really useful, because Holtzman, Abby, and Aaron don't really have a lot of practical world knowledge, and Patty has tons of that,
and she didn't feel forced.
No,
her character didn't feel forced,
and it helps that they all had good chemistry,
right? Yeah,
like they all kind of need each other,
right?
Yeah, and it ended up, like I said, it worked. I did like the idea, again, a spoiler idea, of course, though, of the very one thing I did find terribly realistic. It's a weird little caveat, but is the whole denied tenure point.
Oh yeah,
I actually really like that. I like the idea of all of them losing their jobs, because that's literally, I mean, would happen. Of course, the place where they work, the Collins College or whatever, the tech school thing.
I still think my favorite bit was like when he was telling them all off. It's like oh, I caught it, it's a bird.
But I mean, I agree. One thing is strong with that and stuff is it was not a laugh out loud funny movie.
I just can't agree with that.
Me,
I feel like I laughed more in this movie than I have like at anything besides like Keanu this year.
I'm hard to please.
Oh, which, by the
takes
way,
a lot for me to laugh.
I do just want to say that I did see Keanu and I didn't laugh more than like 2 or 3 times. I forgot to mention that one a couple podcasts ago.
Oh, weird.
I was shocked by how, because I wanted to love it because I really like Key and Peele, and I was like, wow, I didn't barely laughed at
it's just I think it just comes down to taste, because I mean, I don't feel like I laugh easily at things either, but I was laughing at this movie a lot,
and you can tell
I've seen it more than once, you know, and it's not like I laughed at it that one time. It's like, no, it's just as funny as.
The one real point quick that I do want to say is you were talking about each act of the film and section. The one thing I actually really didn't like, I thought the setup was really good. I didn't actually like the opening.
I didn't either.
And I really hated the 3 jokes he made, especially the one about the Ringling Brothers thing. The
enslaved elephants? No, that was funny, man.
No, I mean, I think it's true, but I just don't. Nobody. It's just.
I think it's just because it's kind of he's on Silicon Valley, and I already think he's funny, and he was on The Office, and it's kind of like that humor. Like I like that humor, but
I just couldn't.
I did think it was an interesting way of opening the movie. I don't know if they needed to use the original Ghostbusters theme that early.
It was almost beat for beat the same as the first Ghostbusters film, but it wasn't as strong.
Nah, I don't think it was very similar to the first Ghostbusters film at all, really.
The Fall Out Boy thing?
Oh, no, I meant the film.
No, I meant the opening of the movie.
No. I'm sure that was there just to put you at ease. I mean, there's things to the structure of the film. Work.
Yeah, I don't think the opening is strong. I think that it developed pretty well. But yeah, it definitely is choppy in a lot of spots.
I did think it was weird how they never once called slime. And they never made the easy I got slime joke, which to me I was like, okay, that's either restraint or maybe it's like a thing they can't say slime. I did love that,
by the way. I know there's probably some people going, man, this is way too Nickelodeon, like too Double Dare.
Yeah.
But I love melt movies and slime. Yeah. Like Viscera kind of films.
Did you like the ghost designs? I've seen people bitch that they don't like them, and I can't
name names.
Online various reviews. Birth Movies Death did not like the reviews.
The first one I didn't mind, and the second one, the Subway one, I kind I
really liked the first one, and I liked the Subway ghost.
And then
too.
I felt like in the big aftermath of the Puritan thing,
I didn't like the Ringmaster ghost.
Yeah,
I thought he looked too Beetlejuice, and I feel like. You know, they don't do the dance scene during the fight. Yeah, I kind of think they must have shot them like this is way too Beetlejuice, because it seems
I don't know if it's Beetlejuice. Just
they said cut the momentum.
I think it'd be a momentum, or it'd just be like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, it doesn't really work. It works well in the credits as kind of an Easter egg thing.
I guess it's supposed to be. I feel like dancing. I guess.
Yeah, but I will say that there was so much CGI there that like one of the really cool things that happens, I didn't catch until the second viewing, how like, oh, the ghosts of New York, and then it turns Times Square into 70s Times Square. But you don't really notice because there's so much CGI vapor. And I'm like, and the second time I was like, holy fuck, that's like the Taxi Driver billboard. There's all the 42nd Street theaters. Like, that's really cool. I don't know why you would go to the trouble of making that whole thing. They even have the Coke sign from Superman 2, you know, when this whole thing happens. And then it just disappears and they don't really draw a lot of interest to it. I'm like, there's a Fists of Fury double billboard with the RKO National there.
Maybe that's kind of like an Easter egg plot point.
I know, but it's really cool, and it's kind of like.
But I mean, for the next.
Yeah, no, it disappeared, but it's just like one of those things. It's like that's really cool. Somebody obviously went through a lot of trouble to make that, but there's so much CGI in that fight that it gets totally lost.
Right.
And I didn't like that fight because to me that's not something that was in the first Ghostbusters. The second one, it's like maybe out of the cartoon.
Exist anymore.
Yeah. But
this is a soft reboot.
Yeah, I did laugh though, I will say, or at least chuckle or smile that the when he turns into the real Ghostbusters ghost. If he had just said, "We now return to the real Ghostbusters," I would.
You know what? I will say that too. It bugged me that they made Slimer look just like real Ghostbusters Slimer, but then they gave him this weird deep voice.
Yeah,
I was that. Like, it should have been like. I even said, Drew was like, this voice should be like Slimer. You know?
Yeah, I didn't dig that and stuff. The only thing I was saying was that I really hoped when they went through the portal, you were gonna see the other side, like a phantasm kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
I really think they missed
and
an
that bugged me
opportunity.
too, because then I even put in our review that's like, it's like Big Hero 6. Totally is, like, especially when
the Frighteners.
Yeah, no, to me, like, the hook thing and everything, and then when I remember when Rowan's floating away, I just turned to Ruby and said, "There goes Baymax."
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have punched you in the theater. Something that you guys missed is the Harrison Ford syndrome. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Not really.
Having to do with Bill Murray. And I think the only reason why he did the movie
to get killed
and his
off.
stipulation was I'll be in this film as long as you kill me off.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I remember that was one of his caveats when he wanted to be in the original Ghostbusters. I'll be in it if you kill me at the beginning.
Yeah. It's the Harrison Ford thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I will say, the ghost, the winged ghost was that's where I did start saying, okay, this is getting a little Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, the winged ghost looks stupid. I wouldn't go Scoob, because to me, like, the Scooby-Doo live action is not a point of reference to me. I've heard like a couple people say to the point, like, did somebody mention this in a review? Because I've never heard Scooby-Doo the movie get this much play ever.
They're getting more publicity off of Ghostbusters.
Like, literally, I had three
than
people
they
like,
did when the movie came out.
reminded me of the ghost from Scooby-Doo. I'm like, what? Did everyone and their mom watch Scooby-Doo Monsters
we should
Unleashed?
check
well,
the
if you
trends
were a
on that
kid
on Amazon.
at 10, you would be at 25.
Well, I'm talking to people my age.
Oh, no. I know. I actually saw the first one in the theater, because I'm actually a big Scooby-Doo fan as a kid.
Yeah.
And I did want to see them. Obviously, they weren't great, but it is one of those things. My whole thing is that I have no problem with the, I guess, like what you said about the horror mix of comedy thing. The librarian ghost scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I mean, I was 5 years old, and it was 6 years old, and it was terrifying.
Well, the Hellhounds
The Hellhound
shit out
scared
of
me. The kind of transformation kind of thing always scared me as a kid. Gozer, Zool kind of scared me. The whole idea of all this stuff, it was just frightening. Obviously, like Stay Puft didn't, but it was, or Slimer. That was the cartoonish side of me, and that's the only thing that I think this film could have used more of was. And I think it started with the mannequin, and I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. That's like a good idea. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, please run with that a little more. And I
will say there's probably a more practical reason for why that winged ghost, looked the way it did, is the fact that they probably outsourced this out to like a dozen different special effects.
Well, they definitely did with the finale, because you're probably right. Somebody with love and care did the city, and then they're like, okay, we'll throw in 50 haunted mansion ghosts here in the Times Square, and take care of it.
It's just one of those things where, like, they went out of their way to make a really impractical looking ghost trap, and I will say that, like, I liked a lot of the new gadgets they had, but that, like, ghost trap was really stupid, and then they never use it again. And basically, you're kind of supposed to pick up, they tweaked the proton packs so that they de-ionize ghosts. Like, that's what I picked up towards the end. Right. But it's still kind of like, I heard, like, how could they kill ghosts at the end? I'm like, well, they kind of mention it a piece of, like, techno babble, but that's not a really good excuse.
Yeah, well, it and I don't think the first film necessarily was, or the first or second films.
And, here's the thing, like, is the ecto containment unit just a creation of the cartoon? Because I'm trying to remember if it was in
No, it's in there. I mean, the what do you call
the big red?
This man has no penis. I mean, no. You see the face of it, though. You do see the big red, because it's a firehouse kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm like trying to think, like, okay, so they have this in there, but I guess I didn't remember
Walter
it being
Peck. That's what
green.
That's right. That's right. That it took me a minute to remember that.
Yeah,
shit.
that's what I was trying to figure out. But you're right. The animated series completely created the world was so widened by
because that's what, like, the other side in this looked like the inside of the ecto containment unit, and then, like, there was a lot of fan reference to the cartoon, like, even like when Ray had to go in there one time and he came back and his hair was white. And I'm like, that's a deep cut, dude. Like,
and they mentioned the containment unit in the new one.
Yeah, right during the end.
Yeah, during the end. They said, finally we have something where we can take them from the trap, and then we think we can contain them.
Yeah, and I did. Yeah, I don't know. We got to wind down because Adam's got to go work.
Oh, right.
Last one I want to know. Oh, I thought you were. Are you working today? Oh no, this is your day off. Sorry,
Yeah.
man. We've been some of the other times had
Yeah. I
to
was like, oh,
to
crap.
rush these here. But I think it's about getting closer to wrap up time. But I want to say the big one that I think probably be controversial down the line is Chris Hemsworth.
You know, I thought he was really funny in this, and clearly he was there to make a point about how characters like this in movies are usually women, and they're kind of treated like, you know, eye candy. I do think at points it went kind of a little overboard, like, you know, like, oh, I mean, I still thought it was funny, like him with the two pictures of the saxophone, and there's a thing at the end where it's riffing on like white male privilege, I suppose, or like, oh yeah, I pushed some buttons and saved the day, and then I got a sandwich, and then they throw it away, and then like he says little help, and someone throws him a new sandwich.
There was something maybe about 3/4 of the way through with his character that almost felt like he was possessed from the very beginning. It was just this one little moment that was said, and he did something where it seemed like he was already like possessed by a ghost.
It
and the
could
ghost
be that they might have changed it in post.
maybe,
Yeah.
because that would have maybe given him, you know, that
Because I do feel
character.
I don't want to cut you off too much, but I do get the feeling that this movie was edited a lot after the fact.
Yeah, Anne likes to do the IMDb after we leave a movie,
Yeah.
and she was kind of reading some stuff as we were driving home. She said the original cut of the movie was over 4 hours.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Not
couldn't
that we'll
have done
probably
that.
see that on Blu-ray
No,
because
no.
I mean a lot of stuff is extra fluff or
No,
scenes
I
that
know.
go
Like
too long.
I
but-
remember, I went to Fantastic Fest in Austin once, and we saw the premiere of Darren Lynn Bousman's Mother's Day,
Mm-hmm.
and he made a point of saying his original cut was 6.5 hours long, and he didn't want to trim one frame of it.
Oh my God!
And he's like, hopefully one day I can release it unaltered, and I'm like, it's like, dude, don't be a precious baby.
Especially Mother's
And
Day. Jesus Christ. Come on,
that
man.
movie drags like fuck. But I will say this is something that Zack Snyder needs to take to heart too, because I feel like he skews all his movies to be 3 hours long, and his version is always better. But like, I swear to God, there have to be better ways to get. Because every time the studio edits his movies, they're like, it's terrible. You know?
Yeah, what would have helped was more caramel crunch. Stat.
Yeah. No, but I mean, overall, I don't think this was like the disaster that like so many people were trying to say that it was going to be. I feel it was really rewatchable. If I'm going to look at it so far, because we've, you know, now that we have like the press accreditation, we see so many more of these movies now. And I've seen so many bad comedies this year. And I swear this is probably one of the 3 best comedies this year so far.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but what I'm really disappointed by is just how it's been demonized since the inception of this reboot.
Yeah.
And all the stigma that's followed it,
Well,
all the way up to
I
the release,
feel like-
and even beyond.
I feel like one day we need to do an episode just like trying to like decompress the idea of a reboot. Like, is there a right way to do it? And I feel like lately the thing that everyone's kind of okay with is like the Star Trek method, where like, oh, this is a tangent universe. Everything you love still exists, but this is an alternate timeline.
What they did with Ghostbusters, I don't know how else they would have been
No.
able to do it anyways.
Yeah,
So that's why I think
and
it's a
kinda
competent
almost
film. I just didn't laugh as much.
I kind of almost feel that all the fan service cameos are there to kind of like guide your hand. Like, it's okay, you can like
see,
this.
and for me,
Right.
I didn't want any of that. In fact, that
And like,
actually-
it would be a stronger movie without them.
Yeah,
I
it
also
would be stronger without a lot of the stuff, and because I think it's like I said, the really, really subversive Easter egg kind of stuff is the stuff that really matters. I just do not have nostalgia, and that was one thing that never tainted this film or any other film. They can, they remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre, my second favorite film. People were like, oh my god, and it's Michael Bay and everything's gonna be terrible, and there are people who hate that movie and there are people who love it. It doesn't matter.
No,
in the
I
end.
love.
It's just,
it's like, to me, it's like I love Batman movies. Batman Returns is one of my favorite
Oh,
movies.
but,
so is The Dark Knight.
Right, yeah.
And to me, I can just keep watching just because there's a new Batman movie doesn't mean the one I liked. I hate Batman Forever. It's a stupid fucking movie. But I like the bat suit in it to a certain degree. I thought Kilmer was kind of good. And, like, you know, I like some of the art direction in that movie. But it's a bad movie. But it doesn't invalidate the Burton ones, and the ones beyond it are much better, you know? But as long as you find something you like in it, yeah, that's the important thing.
Hey, but nobody likes Total Recall.
The new one?
The remake. Yeah.
That's it. It's in this is, I didn't mean to touch on this point too, but the fact is, I hate, and this is why I hate the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. We're going to remake this movie, but keep all the scenes from the first one that people remember.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you, dude.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, I never liked that film. Generally, obviously, I mean, I thought Jackie Earle Haley was not bad as Freddy Krueger. I mean, people were like, Robert Englund, he always is going to be Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
But there's got to be two.
And then here's the thing. I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to, but I just want to address this really quick before you go this way. There's a couple. There's a school of thought that comes to this thing. All right, we're remaking this movie. Let's find a new twist on it. And they found a great one, micro naps. I thought that was really clever because, you know, you fall asleep for a second, it feels like way longer. Like, that's really clever. But then they fucked it up by going, let's make him look like he's a real burn victim, and let's make the child molester thing explicit canon. Well, and those two things. And I'll say this from being a film exhibitor now and from seeing how many horror movies you see. When you make something as fucking creepy and weird as child molesting an important part of your character's motivation, you're gonna turn off a lot of people. Look how many people won't see Victor Salva movies just because of his past.
But that's his real life. Yeah. Obviously with Freddy Krueger and stuff, and that was one thing that I do feel though that was in the original films, but never was explicit. And you're right, it can work. It also some people like too thought that it was a better element, but I do agree 100% that the main failing of that film is, oh, hey, we're going to take a new trip down Elm Street, but we're going to make sure that every iconic still everything that is embedded in your mind. But I think that's the problem with every remake and
well, how does this tie into Ghostbusters? So we're not going off on
no, but that's tangent. Because what he's saying is, or as I'm gathering from Victor, is the rules of a reboot or the rules of a remake is
for the people that are like
is always
nostalgic,
is always in flux because you feel like, okay, here's the set boundaries, but that's the thing is you can't have boundaries because that's not right or just. You have to be able to do whatever you want, and if fans are upset about it, and this is my argument. I'm not saying that there wasn't, like I said, this misogynistic element. It's there, whether people want to admit to it or not, but it wasn't the sole reason. My thing is that I want to argue more against the nostalgia, not just with this film, but with a lot of other films where people have become, I mean, borderline militant, to the point where it's just such a, so much anger. And it's like, why are you so angry? This isn't threatening your family or your friends
You're
or your
never
career.
Gonna convince
and that was one of the
just
things.
A huge fucking pussy. Whoever you are out there, if I could Jay and Silent Bob the movie Strike Back and come to your house and kick the shit out of you, I would, because if I had that kind of time and money. But it's just one of those things. It's like, come on.
Let me just really quick, because this is the last thing that I have to say about this.
Okay.
Is, and I've mentioned this before, and it took me a long time to get to this point about nostalgia and being very protective about certain entities and whatevers and brands and everything.
Yeah.
Is, like you said, you just have to let it go. You have to remember that stuff from your childhood is still there. I can still watch the original Ghostbusters movie and enjoy it just as much as I did. I'm not going to be watching this new Ghostbusters going, now you just ruined the original one. You can't ruin the original one. The only person who goes back and ruins original movies is George Lucas.
Right.
That's very true.
Well, and here's Steven Spielberg in E.T. with the walkie-talkie guns.
Yeah,
But here's what I'll say. I mean, to me, don't be beholden to the original when you're making a remake. If you find some kind of spin in there, go the John Carpenter route and like buy the rights to something and just use that one little element. You know, I feel like
make a fanfic.
You didn't have to have like Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. And the thing is, everybody uses Halloween 3 as like the bellwether. Like, oh, if you do a Halloween movie without Michael Myers, it won't work. Bullshit. You know, you can try new things. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But to me, like, a lot of people shit on the Rob Zombie Halloween because it's like, oh, the first half is just white trash Rob Zombie, and then the second half is John Carpenter, right? And it's like, yeah, because those two elements are really jarring. But Halloween 2, which is not a remake of Halloween 2, it's like this weird aftermath of trauma movie, which is really fucking creepy and unique because you don't usually see a lot of it. Like, you know, the Laurie's got all the PTSD from being attacked by Michael Myers, and she's all like, you know, acting out and everything. And then there's the weird thing with her mother and with seeing visions of his mother. It's like, I actually like this movie. It's really different, you know, but at the same time, it's not beholden to the John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
That's more what I want to see in remakes.
And that's the final addendum. Of course, I'm just joking. You know, in terms of that, in fact, that is actually what I'm trying to get away from is that I'm joking about that. But I realize there are people who are serious, who would utilize physical violence because they are so driven by nostalgia and obsession. And I go, that is unhealthy. I don't have to be a mental health professional to tell you that if you have crossed the line from you literally want to hurt people because they have a different opinion than you, then I really would encourage you to go out and get some help because it's like, and that's in the end is the really true final one. That takeaway from this is that people are going to have different opinions than you, and if you're not okay with that, you know, this world probably isn't going to work for you, and people are going to go, well, we'll remake this world into the world we want, and that goes off into a whole nother tangent.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this is
the fifth cataclysm.
Yeah, is the fifth cataclysm is exclusive to just this topic of or just this idea about nostalgia and stuff. Adam put it perfect and eloquently, and it's echoed with a lot of people, which is you will always have your childhood. You will always have your dreams and fantasies and imagination and all that, and you can still be all those things or have all those dreams. It's never going to be compromised unless you let it. If you decide that everything is ruined by this, then that's your prerogative. But for me, it's like, I understand, and that's the thing is that's what builds a community, is people having different ideas.
Exactly.
So just like literally embrace that.
In the end, let's look at this like really logically. We talked about all these remakes that didn't work, like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, all this stuff. This one, at the worst we can say is that it was a C, which is still good, which to me is a big accomplishment.
Well, I'll see the second one when it comes out.
The fact that it was a good movie and was, you know,
I'll buy it when
original
it
enough. Yeah, like I would see this again. I would go see the sequel to this. That's a huge win because most remakes and reboots tend to just like not be very well done. I mean, me and Kirby saw Ninja Turtles 2 Out of the Shadows, and our review of that was like fan service overload. This has a lot of fan service too, and it's like, what did I say? That like I would see this again, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know if it's good. It's just kind of there, you know, for Turtles 2, right?
It is what it.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's almost the best you can hope for, and I feel like this was better than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's
you know,
start wrapping it up.
All right. That's basically what I was saying. It's like, you know, despite all the controversy, I think as a consensus we can say it did succeed as a film, which is a big win. You know, various, you know, depending on our sense of humors. I mean, I laughed a lot more than you guys did, but I think we all liked it. Yeah. Yes.
I've already said everything that I need to say. Up to this point. Let's start wrapping it up because we're over 2 hours.
Yeah. All right. But yeah,
we've said enough.
Thank you for listening to us for 2 hours again.
All right. Well, yeah, for the most part, that's just it. I was just trying to put a bow on it. Yep. But yeah, I think this was an interesting edition of our spoiler cast, which
this one was, by the way, was a heavy spoiler cast, so make sure you put that in there.
Yeah.
I know you will. But yeah, it's good. I think Victor's already mentioned everything we got coming up, but anything else
No, I think that's pretty much it. Like, you know, check us out.
Check out, if you didn't hang out with John, Game Store 81, Game On Expo is happening August 5th through 7th. Thanks to everybody who came out for Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah,
sold out show. It was great to see them, and AZ Game On Expo has an amazing lineup this year, so be sure to check it out.
Right. And like I said, our next film, Terminator 2, tickets on sale now. Just check out our website for more. But until next time, I'm Victor Marino along with Kirby Nelson and Adam Rakowski.
Meow.
And until next time, to go to the other side, you might come back with white hair.